we're just gonna ask about global chat 15 times in a row, and just hopefully just berate you
until we get the answer we want.
into making it happen.
Right. Because that's how things work, right?
What are we calling this? Is this a podcast?
Red. Flash.
All right, I say, time to kick it off. Welcome everyone to a special episode of Red Sox Clash. Today we have community manager Frame here with us, and I am Rick, one of the Reddit mods. Also joined, we got Spencer, Sam, and Liam here as well. But let's get straight into it. Frame, how are you doing? And then can you tell us a little bit about your life leading up to Supercell? What got you into Clash?
Hi all. I'm Frame, also known as Vlad, also known as different things, but I've been always using consistently throughout my career nickname Frame. So and actually, majority of the real life people and friends call me Frame, funnily enough. So it just use that. And yeah, I've been in the gaming industry for 12 years. Supercell for almost 3.5 now. And I was originally hired for Clash Mini, actually. Yeah, I've been running that game just before Alpha, and then Beta, and then we went to kind of like beta release, and then we were preparing for like a bunch of updates, so that kind of stuff. And then Clash Mini got killed, and obviously, as it goes inside of Supercell, you kind of take a look at like the other teams and your passion and what you're kind of the most excited about. And I've been playing Clash on and off ever since it came out. I bought my first iPad only because of that game, because it was only available at the beginning on iOS. At that time, still not called iPad OS, and yeah, I've been always having a passion to like get into the game much more and kind of like figure like how the community works, and now it's my opportunity. And I've been now in the team for the past a little bit over 6 months, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, you're also splitting time with Project Rise, right?
Yeah, but Project Rise is still very, very early, and it is a very small community of alpha testers. So we don't really have like a full-time need or a capacity to do anything like super active. Of course, the team is working on the game full-time and very actively, but from like a public communication standpoint, yes, I run the channels and all that stuff, but my highest priority and like 95% of my energy is focused on COC, yeah.
Oh, cool. So far in your time as a community manager here for Clash of Clans, what do you think's one of the more challenging parts of that job?
Well, the bigger team, obviously, like Clash Mini has been very, very small team, and over time it grew, obviously, as we were like developing more features and growing the team and all that kind of stuff, becoming more ambitious. But Clash of Clans has a legacy, right? Like has like 12 years of legacy work and people that have been in the team for much longer than me, that know each other, that have been sitting around with each other for a very long time and have ways of working and all that kind of stuff. And so like getting used to that whole way of like the way the game works, the way the game runs, took me a while. I feel like it took me over 2 or 3 months or so to figure out where all the assets are, and assembling fan kits and coordinating things with creators and how the creators want it to be and how we can improve all that kind of stuff. So it's been a wild ride, kind of like understanding how different teams work. And in Supercell, every team works differently. There is no like a hard rule on like how the teams are running. They decide for themselves. So yeah, it's been very exciting and very confusing at the same time.
All right. Last little fluff question, I guess. What games are you playing like for fun in your own time lately?
I have, yeah, if you follow me in threads, you know that I play Pokemon Sleep. It is like a very hardcore game where you have to just sleep and wake up, and that's the whole gameplay. Now, I mean, joking aside, it is. I love casual games because I have a child that is also like very. You're starting to get into games, and we need to kind of keep it casual and not like super heavy on like you know, straight up into Clash of Clans, but I think eventually she will get to use that as well. It's just like you know, so I'm keeping it a little bit more approachable. And then yeah, like let me actually open up my phone and tell you. I mean, it's like it's as simple as that. I do play a lot of you know, Heyday and Clash Royale as well on the side. But yeah, I mean, and also one of the games that I invested the most time into probably has been Super Meat Boy Forever, because I'm a huge fan of like hardcore platformers and kind of like precision gaming, that kind of stuff. And Hot Lap League was also like one of my favorites, because I like that kind of like accuracy, kind of like perfectionist kind of vibe for the games. So it's all over the place, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, yeah, I think Sam's gonna kick us off with some of the, hopefully some of the tougher questions.
Yeah, I hope you weren't too comfortable after that. It was a bit of a lure to get you in here. Yeah, I think it starts off fairly nice though. So, obviously we got the new legendary scenery recently, which I have to say is pretty damn awesome. And obviously it came with a whole explanation, whole little article, and it said that future monetization would be mainly focused on cosmetics and possibly new cosmetic items. So we're wondering if you could give any hints at what those new items could be.
I actually myself don't really know like what other cosmetic items we could be thinking of, except like expanding on the existing stuff. Obviously like we're monitoring what the community actually wants from cosmetics, and like on a daily basis we basically uh kind of like monitor what Discord and Reddit are talking about and what the suggestions are. But yeah, I mean, obviously the vibe of the whole team is that yeah, the cosmetics are definitely uh could definitely be one of the bigger like future kind of directions for the game, because it is something that like, you know, doesn't really affect your gameplay, and it's like it's just like a cool thing for a collectionist people to kind of chase. And in terms of legendary scenery, and this is just my personal opinion and my personal vibe on it, so don't take this as like a representation of the whole team by any means, is that like I think that legendary scenery has kind of like escalated things a tiny bit too fast, when it's like, you know, like it just like came up with this kind of like massive thing that's like extremely like obvious that it's like a high-end kind of cosmetic, where like I feel like we could have grown like the whole pool of cosmetics into like something a little bit more premium and a little bit more kind of like, okay, so maybe you have something in between and something that kind of grows into it and that kind of stuff. But again, I think that this is just a beginning, and this is kind of like to test the waters of like how the reception goes and how people like, you know, even like receive these kind of sceneries and these kind of like cosmetics overall, and then see like, you know, then react to that. And the team has been kind of very consistently in that mindset of like, we need to just try something new, and we need to see how how it gets received. But it comes from a good place of like trying to figure out like what the future of the game is and what the cosmetic progression could look like.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you were kind of thinking it went a bit too fast in terms of, something had this really expensive, 32 quid scenery or whatever. So in your ideal world, would there be, because obviously we're quite used to the maximum price for a cosmetic being about £10 or so, for a legendary skin. Obviously £32 is now this new scenery. In your kind of ideal world, would you see cosmetics like in between that price range, possibly even above £32, like a real much wider range than we're seeing currently?
I mean, again, I'm not a monetization manager, so just to
Yeah,
preface
of
that, like
course.
there are people that are like very much in charge of like how much things should cost. And when you take a look at like how many months did it take to create this legendary scenery and how many people actually worked on this, like from concept art to 3D to like it was just like an army of people trying to assemble this into a masterpiece, and it is extremely impressive. So you know, in a way, you kind of appreciate the amount of effort that was into it. And to me, it really, like, I play League of Legends before, so it's like I have that kind of reference of like, okay, so things can get real pricey real fast if you really want them to be. And so like I don't know where that like maximum is, and what can come in between. Like, is there like a higher tier of skins, or is there like different kind of decos, or like different places like that you can investigate more to kind of focus on decos. But speaking of like addressing legendary scenery and the kind of cosmetic progression overall, stay tuned to Inside Builder Scout episode 2, which is going to come extremely soon, maybe even a day after this. And then you may find out more about like what could be the future of this kind of stuff.
We'll be on the lookout.
All right, next question we have. This one kind of pertains to those recent loot boxes, treasure chest. I don't remember the official name, but those were being teased in an upcoming event, and we're curious about after the event, the future of these loot boxes. Has the team discussed maybe monetizing them or being purchasable with gems? Where do these loot boxes, where are they going to land in the future?
Funny enough, we're releasing a few TikTok videos and a few like longer form videos explaining as to like how they work and where you can find them. And one of the lines of the script that I wrote, that I read because I'm the narrator of the videos, is that we don't have any plans to actually monetize these chests.
Oh, wow.
So they are going to be purely like, just like if you are playing actively the game, you will be able to get them. And like we want you to like get rewarded for just playing the game, right? So that is the idea. And we like treasure hunt event is the very first of its kind, and depending on how the feedback goes, I think the best feedback we could get is that we want more of this. I think that is like, if that is the case, then we've done something right. And it's so like if that goes well, like let's see. Treasure hunt event also had a few issues with like just a few bugs that have been like coming here in and out. Like I'm sure you had your game crash when you're opening the chests. So it's something that we are fixing, and hopefully it's been fixed. So anytime now, the treasure hunt event should actually start. And with that, obviously, we will have a video kind of explaining exactly how it works, and hopefully people, and also like again, this is not something, I understand that like majority of the listeners are like Town Hall 16 and have nothing to do, quote unquote nothing. But this event is also kind of trying to target people that are not like people like me, which are like Town Hall 12, and that are like trying to like get just more loot and more cool stuff, and kind of like play the game. And I think that is going to be exciting because you get these like rewards that are like 24-hour consumable kind of stuff, and you gotta like just have fun with it in short bursts of like between every few days, and that's like that is the goal. So we know what kind of feedback we can expect already, but it could be still interesting to see how the feedback goes, and then iterate upon that.
All right.
Yeah, looking forward to when that starts. And glad you answered when soon. But next one, 2024 was the year of the home village. What about 2025?
Well, I think Stuart is probably the best person to answer that. 2025, I think, because the team is expanding. The team has much more capacity to actually do cool stuff for the players, and for the game overall, and make it fun and make it more rewarding and just feeling better. It can be as big as like major additions to the game, new like quality of life, UI improvements, like all that kind of stuff that like you would expect the game to get like updates on, that have been like. And thank you so much for setting up like for all the Discord staff, like for setting up the feedback channels. We are actually actively now looking into suggestions and ideas for that. So it is still a little bit open towards 2025. We haven't like set anything in stone super hard, but there are a few things that we want to kind of like explore and see how players can like speed up their progression, kind of like get to like the fun part of the game, and not have like the quote unquote Town Hall 12 moment, right? Like where like people are like, oh, like who is gonna go through this one now, right? And so like I think the whole vibe is being shared with the whole team that like, yes, like we know the timers are a problem, and the game can like grind to a halt almost at some points, and so that is the highest priority, to kind of make the game smoothen out and make sure that like all the players can yeah, actually get to the fun part of the game, and evolve their village into something that's a little bit more manageable, instead of just like exponential growth, which is like unsustainable. Let's put
Yeah.
like if you're just being real with like where the game could go. And so yeah, I think everybody's on the same page with that, but at the same time the game needs to be more social. There needs to be more elements where people can actually play together. um and then obviously like exploring different ways of playing the game. And so like those all of those things are kind of like need to be combined into something more fun, but at the same time obviously rolling out new content, right? Like the new town halls, the new like all the troops and whatever we would expect from the game, but without like it feeling overwhelming at the same time. Because like if you tell people that there's like 5 new troops in the game, and people are like still at Town Hall 12 or 11, they're like, well, okay, that doesn't change anything for me, right? So it's like it is something like that everybody on the design team and gameplay experience and player journey team need to really take into serious consideration. And the good news is that community team is also being involved in that, and we also like get the front row seat of like telling them how this could be perceived by the players, and the creators also play a big role in that as well.
Random aside, you mentioned the feedback channels in Discord too. You had asked about getting ideas and concepts flares back on the subreddit. I don't think I told you, but we did that.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much. Yes, because a lot of our new team members actually want to filter by like just ideas and cool stuff, and that is like the most convenient way to do so. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess everyone else listening too, if you do have ideas or concepts, the man himself just said they're looking, and yeah, you can use ideas and concepts flare on the subreddit once again.
Cool. So next question. Town Hall 15 was a hard town hall. Town Hall 16 was more as the easy one. So what can we expect for difficulty out of Town Hall 17?
Actually, this one I would not like know particularly myself. Like this is up to the balancing team and the team that like actually is building like the whole progression path for the future of the game. So I could not tell you right now. Like even if it was playable by the team and I would just be like, oh yeah, like this is easy. Like I'm not the best person to benchmark like the highest end kind of gameplay, because again, as I said, I'm Town Hall 12 and I'm about to hit 13, and like so like in theory, I don't even have an RC yet unlocked. And it's kind of funny that like, people are telling me that like Town Hall 16 is easy one, and I'm like here like sitting on my wall upgrades on Town Hall 12. So it's kind of a funny funny approach to like judge it. Obviously, again, I do play the dev build actively, and in dev build obviously we all have to play the high, well, not have to, but like a lot of us opt in to play the highest end content. So obviously I have the idea, but it is all based on the balancing of the game. And speaking of balancing, we also need to do a good job of like just the overall game balance, instead of just focusing on like, oh, this town hall is easy, this town hall is hard, because you can kind of change that on the fly, and you can adjust those things. For example, like the loot gain and stuff like that we've adjusted, that makes things a little bit easier, right? Like because you can progress much faster through. But let me know if you have something specifically in mind.
Think that's all good from Liam. Next question is more coming to the subreddit. Kind of noticed in recent months, I think it's fair to say the interaction from Supercell has been on the minimal side, or at least it comes in kind of brief spurts. is there any chance we could get a little bit more attention going forwards? And also, is there anything that we as mods or the community as a whole can do to kind of encourage participation from Supercell in general?
Wait a minute. I thought this question was, why do you hate us? Why didn't you just ask that way?
Well, you know what?
He
I
chickened
thought
out.
I
He
thought
chickened
I
out and
thought Rick-
deleted that line 4 seconds ago.
I thought Rick was
did.
being too. I thought Rick was being too horrible, so I thought I'd answer it in a much more tame way. I can do it
Don't
again if
worry.
you prefer. I can really lay into you guys.
Don't worry about it. No, yeah, I mean, so interaction with Reddit, yes, we dropped the ball. We did not answer. Like, so basically what happened was Ferry joins the team, right? Like Ferry joins Clash of Clans, right? And then at some point, like Ferry's like it very quickly starts answering things, like responding to Reddit posts. And then I joined the team. We start having a bunch of meetings talking about stuff, like trying to figure things out. Haaland campaign is running. Like we are all like in like a full on like content production push mode. We really didn't have too much time to spend on like just hanging out and like watching creator videos, like watching Discord chat, watching Reddit, like just hanging out, not like expecting like every time you get a Supercell response tag on your post to be like, oh my god, something got leaked or something got announced. Like it shouldn't be that way, and we understand that. Like we just should be present. And thankfully Marco joined us as well now, which we are super excited about, and he has actually the most experience in Clash of Clans of all of us because he worked with us on esports and community before. And now we finally are back in the mode where like we can spend daily amount of time of being like, let's just see what Reddit is doing and like respond to some fun stuff that's happening there. So hopefully you're seeing more activity now than like in the past month or two. Of course, like during July we will be off, and majority of the
We'll
people
give you that.
yeah, like during July we were off, and I was gonna like back up, sort of like covering the anime season by myself, almost sort of. Preparing for it at least. And then before after that dropped, the guys came back and they're super like fun like anime nerds themselves, and you can tell that based on the content that was made. And so that was extremely fun, and that taught me a lot about the processes and running the game at this scale. And so yeah, I again we dropped the ball on like communicating on Discord and Reddit actively for the past 2 or 3 months, but I think things will come back together. And if we don't respond within if we don't have a new response every few days, poke us. And you have channels. You have channels where you can like mention us at any moment and be like, "Yo, where are you at? What you doing? Why are you ignoring us?" That kind of stuff. So,
Can we use
like,
the emergency everything's on fire email, or is that a little bit too drastic?
I think everything is on fire email like definitely is needed only for like actual emergencies, like things that are like, oh, like the game's breaking, servers are not working, that kind of stuff, like actual critical issues. But yeah, other than that, feel free to poke and somebody from the team will come and check it out.
Awesome.
Hopefully you don't regret saying that. So, September Gold Pass. What the hell was that about?
Oh yeah, that was that was not well, in retrospect it wasn't a good decision, but it came from well, it doesn't matter what I say. I feel like no matter what I say, people will think it's people will have a cynical take, and I think that it did come from a good, like, genuine care for all the players' position. And what I mean by that is that the moment that was brought up originally to us was that, like, listen, people are getting these skins, right? Like, especially RC skin, that is like basically impossible for higher, like, for lower town hall levels to even like be meaningful, right? To be like, oh, I got this. And this is including me, by the way. Like, I don't have RC unlocked yet I have like, I probably have like 3 or 4 skins at least for her. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, what is happening here? Like, why isn't there like a better solution to having like something more universal that everybody can use it right away from the gold pass? And I think, and this is like my own personal take again, like same as legendary scenery. This is not like representation of the whole team, but I feel like the super decos, or whatever you call them, 3x3 decos, animated decos, interactable decos, whatever you want to call them, are a very cool concept. And I think they are in themselves, as the idea of a new cosmetic tier, interesting to people. People want to have more cool stuff. Like, I've seen a bunch of creators use the decision dice to kind of roll and, you know, make their gameplay based on that. So there's obviously a bunch more stuff that we can explore. But I think the gap between the team introducing the new tier of cosmetics, which is like the premium, higher level decorations, and the moment of like trying to integrate that into the gold pass wasn't long enough, or like people just didn't understand that, like, oh, well, there could be another option of adding different kinds of cosmetics into the gold pass. And so again, big credit to a lot of super creators on the creator program. They have given us feedback before this change was made, right? Like, including, you know, Trample and everybody else. Like, they came to us and they were like, no, we don't think this is a good idea. We had very, very long conversations about this, and like, as to like why we still want to try it and why we still want to do it. And the team ultimately decided to just go ahead and see how the feedback was. One thing that we could have done better was to kind of announce this change before it happened, like many, many days before, and see the reaction based on just like, hey, yo, like, this is going to happen. What do you guys think? Because I think that could have been another like layer of feedback that the public could have given that may have persuaded the team to change their mind. But again, it did come from the place where, like, how do we make the whole gold pass approachable and unlockable and fun for everybody, instead of like the people that have all the heroes and that are like collectionists and like want to complete the whole set and need to buy the gold pass plus all the other themed skins to kind of have the whole package and that kind of stuff. So yeah, in retrospect, obviously, it's not gonna that hopefully is not gonna repeat itself, and we are going to try to like actually we reacted to it relatively fast. I mean, it's been only a few days after that change came out that we were like had like a big meeting with the whole team, figuring out what the next steps could be and all that kind of stuff. But I also don't want to talk on behalf of the people that have been in charge of all this stuff. So please make sure to watch the Inside the Builder's Hut episode, number 2, that is coming, that is going to talk, I think, mostly about this. So
nice.
Ferry is going to sit down with the team and kind of like talk honestly. And I think Inside Builder's Hut is the kind of series where we kind of also want to have a real talk with the team and ask point blank the questions that community has. And you know, that is where you can get some more kind of a mindset, and kind of where we came from and what we concluded after this, like kind of more insight into it, into the whole thing.
Do you think that you guys are going to stick with just like a hero skin, or are you still going to tinker with exploring other cosmetic options for the gold pass?
I don't know, to be honest. I think we need to also introduce more compelling and interesting things to put into the gold pass in order to for community to kind of like think about it differently. I also think that there could be an interesting idea, and this is just something that I've seen before in Royale, for example. I think that is what Royale did. I'm not sure. Where like there is like a different rewards based on your town hall level. So like if you are like, you know, kind of scaling, quote unquote, uh, kind of rewards that are like that actually make sense. So I don't know like what the future could be, but there is a few options. But I think for now, like the skin could be just a thing that keeps rolling out. And then as we have more stuff that's more interesting for people, that could be introduced. But again, not 100% sure what that could be for now.
Cool. So kind of kind of related to the Gold Pass, 2024 as a year has felt really revenue focused in Clash of Clans, a lot more than kind of any year I can think of. So we've had the Gold Pass change, as we just said, no free scenery at Town 16, the new legendary scenery, event passes, things like the Apprentice Builder and the Goblin Builder to kind of basically get gems out of people's accounts. Just kind of honestly, is Clash doing okay?
I think, I mean, again, I've been in a team only for 6 months, so I can just judge it from the past 6 months period, and it's doing fine in terms of like, oh, like we want to speed up progression. We want to explore different places where people can like speed up the game and kind of like explore different options in terms of features of like giving people more option to kind of like just find out like, okay, so if I wanted to like give my game like give my buildings upgrades like, you know, a quick 1 hour boost, how that could look like, and like, you know, then having like these magic snacks that are coming with treasure hunt, like that's something that's like being uh kind of like the whole focus was to kind of like speed up the game and make sure that the game kind of like feels better, and at the same time trying to like explore what kind of like cosmetic direction we could take. So it is a balancing act always, right? Like uh having different options for free to play versus paid players versus like the players that are in between, and that kind of stuff. And thankfully on the team there is a diverse set of people, so like every time we hire a new team member, there is like a we check like which town hall level they are, and there is no shame in like, you know, if you're not town hall 16, actually it's beneficial if you're not, because like when I joined, I was very transparent that I was like legit town hall 12. Like I can always be like, oh, you know, haha, like, you know, I know how the things work because of the dev build, but in reality, like my day-to-day account is actually that level, and that is very beneficial because you can then give feedback to the team and be like, yo, this feels different like than what you guys could imagine feeling. And so for example, like when we write patch notes, the question is, do we prioritize like the high-end content to be at the very top, or do we prioritize something that's unlockable for everyone, right? Like, because that's something that's like the most important for everyone, that everybody can experience. And then like as you go down, you can find out what is the higher end stuff. And so that is like the prioritization of the game itself, of like how can we balance all the town hall levels at the same time and make it more fun for those people, and then worry about high end like supercharges, for example, which is like the feature that I genuinely will not see for many like months or even years, potentially, depending on how fast my gold pass goes. But yeah, it's just like I think the game itself is doing pretty well, and it's been a very fun experimental year. And I think next year we know what things work and what things don't, and we can continue like carrying on with much more focused direction and much more fun features and visuals and all that kind of stuff.
So is it generally fair to say that like the all these new changes were focused more on progression than kind of the financial revenue side of the game?
No, so to us, it is never about like short term like monetary gain. And I think that is something that like we all agree on. We don't want to like sacrifice like quick like, you know, money making moment to like sacrifice like player experience or like player progression. Of like we want to kind of make the game obviously progress faster, but also at the same time like we want to make the game much more fun, and every time you log in you have something to do, right? Like that's why like to me I think the game changer is going to be the magic snacks, where like you can like instant train your troops and kind of like have a bunch of like fun moments in attacking, or like level up all your equipment and just try it out and see how it feels and that kind of stuff. And that like modifies the game for everyone, and everyone can like try the game out from a different perspective. And like I still do believe that, myself personally, is that there isn't enough stuff to be done between two attacks. And like, once you're done with that, like you're like, okay, well, now I have to wait, or speed up or do like uh builder base or something else, right? And it's like at that time, like I feel like we have some areas to improve on, and we're working on that. So it is the top priority, always will be, to make the game more fun and enjoyable. And if that is the case, then obviously people will come back to us and be like, all right, you guys did a good job, let's go for more feedback and iterate upon this further. So yeah, I really do hope that the next update will be even more fun than this one, and we can have some additional feedback of like, we want more of this, instead of we don't want this.
Anytime there's a change in the game that has financial implications, people are pretty quick to cry. This is all Tencent. So, maybe you could tell us how much day-to-day influence Tencent really has over the game.
Fun fact: if you go to my LinkedIn, you will find that I worked in Tencent for 3 years. So I do know how the company works there, but at the same time, like there is nothing that there is zero influence. So like the China build of the game is completely separate game on its own, and that runs its own lane without any like real like influence onto the global version of the game. And it's like the game is just those two teams are very separate. They do sometimes talk to each other in terms of learnings, in terms of like how things are going, kind of briefing each other on like what they've like just in general. But like there is not much of like, I'm going to tell you what to do and you're going to tell me what to do. It's more of a kind of like heads up, kind of like conversation and exchange of any kind of just fun facts. So yeah, that is the extent of like where these two companies are actually talking to each other. And to be honest, like I have had basically zero interactions so far with them, and so on day to day, month by month, year by year, there is basically no real direct influence of anything related to the game and how the game does, or if the game is going to remove the skin, or if the game is going to introduce the legendary scene or whatever, right? Like those are like all different teams and different directions of what the teams feel like should be done for the game. And one thing that I want to also point out is that some creators have asked us, can they cover like the official China build of the game if they're able to kind of like log into it and kind of like show to the players like how it feels and what the game does. And if you can read Chinese, go ahead. Like I we can stop you, right? Like you can try it out and take a look at it, but you cannot also like compare a lot, because the culture and the habits of players are extremely different. So that just simply makes no sense to kind of like carry over any of the stuff from one game to another as well.
I mean, being in Shanghai, we can trust you're being straight up with us, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've lived in Shanghai for over 12 years, and I know the culture better than most, let's say. And I played a lot of local games as well myself. I have the App Store account there, and I install a bunch of them and try them out. But I would personally say that they're not my cup of tea, like most of them, because they're very heavy on gacha mechanics, paid mechanics, and I think like sure that can work, but again, my roots are still in like free to play friendly kind of games.
All right. Our next question kind of asks about the increase in bugs we've had. The last few updates, the last few events or season resets, there has just been a huge amount of bugs in the game and maintenance breaks comparing to last year and previous years. So what's kind of going on there?
Yeah, I try to understand sometimes like what's going on. Like I'm not a server engineer. I'm not a maintenance expert. So the stuff that we like as a like public facing figures like me, Ferry, and Marco get often is just like a bullet point list of like what's being fixed and when. Now the question is how is it being fixed and why it's being fixed and how did it come up to that? I cannot really like like even understand myself because again I'm really actually terrible at coding. Like fun fact, I tried to learn like Java and uh but I just simply my brain doesn't work that way. My brain is much more visual and kind of like uh timeline driven rather than just like a logical thinking kind of person. So it's like it's just a different kind of brain that I have compared to some people that work on this stuff. But yeah, it's also like I feel like the fact that like the team is growing, there's a bunch of new people that are joining the team, people are trying to figure things out, and things slip through cracks. And we did have obviously a long talk about like how we cannot like repeat this stuff, and I'm sure the team has figured out a way to like have a longer like heads up on lead times onto like testing and make sure that the bugs are squashed and we don't ship a build that's like needs like 3 different maintenances just so the game doesn't like do some weird stuff. So like I do really hope that like the next update will not have as such a scale as this current one that we are having, but we feel the same pain as you guys, and like we do also like try our best to like emphasize that like and in our own work we try to like even delay stuff if it's not ready. So that's what you're seeing with the treasure hunt event. It was supposed to originally start, we've us as a community manager, we created this timeline, this poster that's like season calendar, and very often we have to go back and forth in terms of like an actual dates of like the events and stuff, um, until we know for sure that the testing is over and this is confirmed that it can actually go live. And in this case, obviously, it got delayed a bunch of times because we want to also have a good experience for players. We don't want like everybody that opens a chest to be crashing like immediately. So probably not the best experience, and also like consumables not working on that kind of stuff, like the snacks like just like not doing what they're supposed to do. But yeah, so ideally, hopefully, fingers crossed, those things are now behind us. But again, at the same time, it was a big learning for us, and a bunch of new team members, and all of us are kind of like behind this like mindset of like we cannot repeat this like at this scale, and hopefully it will be much smoother moving forward. But let's see. Like it is something that we are also seeing on subreddit and Discord and Twitter, where like people are also like, you cannot unsee stuff that people say about maintenances and changes and bugs. So we are aware and trying our best to kind of like improve the process and get more people to help us out.
Speaking of bugs and feedback, actually, the customer support is actually one of the biggest complaints that we see from users on the subreddit. Is there anything being done to address these issues, such as being unable to talk to a human, or hitting repeated brick walls, being denied help because of suspicious activity that may or may not have happened, etc.?
Well, when it comes to community managers, we can provide feedback as to like what we're seeing about like customer support and player support. But we cannot directly influence on like the direction of where this is going and what the systems can change, or like what systems can be improved. But funny story is that Danny from Brawl Stars is extremely passionate about this, and he's been helping a lot with the process of like people like getting into people's Supercell IDs, and how do we test this out, and how do we like solve a bunch of that kind of stuff. So that's been very impressive, and kudos to that kind of passion that's like trying to like work together with player support to kind of solve this. And we also saw a thread that, like, you know, the legendary thread at this point on subreddit where people were talking about you know, different ways of like getting into people's accounts and that kind of stuff. So we have investigated that, and we have hopefully, I think, restored all that stuff. But again, like, from how does player care work, it is very hard for me to know exactly, because we're not that department. So we don't have like a day-to-day like window into how it actually works. But you know, ever since the Stewart's AMA as well, that was one of the questions, and he said that he would relate that feedback to the team that's relevant to it. So I'm sure that conversation is ongoing. It's just like the question is like, when do you guys get to see the public facing change? And sometimes those things take time, because the game has, you know, millions and millions of players playing actively daily. So, you know, how many millions of like humans we need to have to be able to respond to all of those requests is the biggest question. And, you know, how fast can that be done, and all that stuff. So yeah, but sometimes we also like try the systems ourselves, and try to understand like how does this actually work in practice. So we're going to continue doing that, and continue like pushing the team to like keep asking more like what can be done, and hopefully you know, you guys will see some visible change on those channels. But for the exact timeline, I really don't have any specifics at this point.
Makes sense. Thanks.
All right, so kind of moving on to a different area of the game. Obviously, we've got the World Finals coming up in November this year, which should be pretty cool. But kind of looking a bit ahead, what will esports kind of be like in 2025? We've had quite a few changes, I'd say, in the past, past 2 years. Obviously, we've got hard mode now, which is coming into the World Finals. Is that gonna be the case for the future? Are we always gonna have hard mode being kind of the default esports mode? Will we get community qualifiers back? They obviously like premiered last year, but then went away again. So I was wondering if there was any kind of firm decision on them. And finally, will the World Finals ever be seen outside of Helsinki again?
Wow, all of the questions
Yeah.
that probably
Good
should be
luck.
asked for. Yeah, good luck to me. No, yeah, like I'm literally least involved into the esports organization of the side of the game. So this is going to be a very short answer. Like, I mean, like maybe if you asked Marco, he would know better in terms of like what's coming, because he was very heavily involved in esports before. Uh, but obviously, hard mode has been pretty well received, and I think the balancing act of hard mode is still ongoing, and the designers that are in charge of balancing are very, very careful about like what things are being adjusted, and like not making like a sweeping changes. And that feedback comes from like a bunch of different places. It's not just like, oh yeah, we feel like the data shows this and that's like the vibe, and just go ahead and change the numbers. It doesn't never works that way.
Vibes at first.
It's all, yeah, like no, there's no like, no, esports can't be vibes only. Like we need to literally have like proper discussion with professional players on the ground that are playing multiple, you know, hundreds of games over and over again, and that they're like actually meaningfully telling us how they like actually like perceive hard mode, and what things could be improved moving forward. So I can imagine hard mode sticking around for esports, obviously. Like I think that is like
Yeah.
one of the reasons why it was integrated into the game. Because again, the people that say the game is easy at the high end are the hardcore people, and everybody else are like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Like I can't even 2-star. You know, it's like, so it is a huge gap between those people and the normal people that are just playing the game for fun. And it's like, again, we have to remind ourselves that it's like a, you know, the size, the population difference is also like massive. And yeah, but community qualifiers, again, I'm not sure. Like I'm, to be honest, not sure even like how they looked like before. So I would
Fair enough.
really try my best not to like answer that, like because I really don't truly know. But again, like I would love to see how this gets executed. And I think in terms of Superfest and it being in Helsinki, the reason why it's in Helsinki, it's also because we have like everybody in the country and everybody like just a few minutes drive away from the office, right? So it's like we can on the ground be in control of all the variables. And when you are in another country, in another venue, and you have different people in charge of different things, and then you need to remotely from Helsinki sometimes coordinate all this stuff, it becomes exponentially harder, especially if you go like if you change the time zone and stuff like that. And reminder, Supercell is a very small company considering the size of companies that some companies have. So, you know, name any game that has esports scene on this scale. The highly likelihood of like that company behind that game being 10 times bigger than Supercell is probably very high. So it is just the amount of like focus that we can dedicate to this kind of event and the logistics that needs to go into this whole thing with the amount of people that we have, and that is a huge challenge. So obviously I don't know what the plan of Superfast is, if it is going to stay in Finland forever, which I don't think it's a thing that people want to like commit to. You don't really want to be like, oh yeah, like it will never change and that's the end of the world. Because to be honest, like I mean, we also made a joke in the Superfast announcement that November in Finland probably not the best month in the world to be in Finland. So like I would personally prefer to be in July in Finland if possible. Thank you very much. But the way esports work, I'm aware that like apparently November is a good time for esports. But if I were the CEO of esports, I would just change it to June. But I'm not. So yeah, that's my kind of personal take on it. So,
Yeah, gotta say you did a really great job getting through all those questions there. I'm quite impressed.
All right. I kind of asked something similar to this before, but I guess it'll be a little more direct since we got Asher out here too. What would you say the odds are that we see some builder base or clan capital content in the next year?
I mean, it's gonna happen, right? Like I don't know. Like I am a fun fact about me. I like builder base more than home village. You're gonna kill me right now. You're probably gonna kick me from this stage hall right now.
That's crazy.
Bye. Yeah. So no,
Deep breath,
it's
everyone.
just like I do love builder base myself because it just gives me so many more opportunities to attack with like repeatedly over and over again and practice my attacks and kind of like have a smaller army and just like micromanage things a little bit at the better scale. I don't know. It's just like there's something about like tiny village, smaller army, like the vibe of like, oh, I know exactly like what is gonna happen here and that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm much more in control. So on a personal level, huge fan of builder base. I actually maxed out my builder base very much faster than my home village when it came out. So obviously I was all in with like just getting it as fast as possible there. The walls are still a problem, and maybe the pipe walls not the best walls. I would just probably not go for the pipe walls myself. Like I would probably just keep them at the lower tier just because of the looks. But then again, like my personal choice in terms of visuals. um so yeah, but I don't know, to be honest, clan capital and builder base, what will be done with them. We know that all I know is that the game designers have been like saying, yeah, these features have been like left behind and they're not like getting the love that they deserve, like at a larger scale of things. And like like the release of like a cadence of like the home village versus like everything else has been obviously different. But yeah, we also know that people do really care about the home village much more than anything else. So it's really just a matter of balancing act of like how many people you are going to reach by introducing a feature to to an existing place that like people also don't really spend much time on. But it's a chicken and egg problem, because if you don't introduce new stuff, how do you expect people to come back? So it's like it's always a conversation that is like back and forth. But I would personally leave it to the game designers to kind of figure that one out and like to balance it out and have something that's compelling.
All right. Over the summer, there was the Unlimited Hero event, and there was an overwhelming amount of positive feedback from at least
Yep.
what I saw. So what are the chances of that event returning, or at least just returning permanently and just letting everyone finally use their heroes while upgrading?
I don't know what is the next step for it. I mean, I would personally love to see it again. I was in the office. I was like, I was one of the guys that's kind of like worked on the whole like unlocking heroes. Obviously, I was the bear. Like I transformed into the bear eventually on that Clash on, so that was fun. But like, yeah, I think that was a good test, and we learned. I think the team overall learned quite a bit in terms of like what that does and how positive it can be received. But at the same time, like I think the introduction of magic snacks and kind of like a burst of increased progression and like a burst of energy that you can get from like just like being dedicating yourself to like next 24 hours of using the magic snack and kind of like going all in. There is also a high potential for that as well. So there is a lot of like exploration to be done on that front, and I'm not sure if the like format of an event where you just turn it on for a whole month and just let people go wild is the best way of doing it, because people also, if something runs for a whole month, people eventually stop like really kind of caring, or like try to poke holes and like find things that are like could have been better, and like they're just kind of like not like the fun factor kind of like stops being a thing, because what we've observed is that also like the amount of dark elixir that you need for this increases quite a bit. So yeah, it's just it's a balancing act. So I think like there is a increasing amount of venues that we can explore where like we have like a short burst of much more fun kind of like increase like power up moment, and then like power down, and kind of like having more of a oscillation of fun in the game rather than having these big peaks and valleys of like, oh well, this month is going to be super fun and then the fun is going to drop to zero and nobody's going to have fun for next month at all, right? Like that, we don't want to do that. We want to have like different variations of like, is it going to be a medal event that does something weird? Is it going to be a community event that does something weird? Is it going to be a treasure hunt event that does something completely different? Like all of those things kind of combined should make the game feel much more alive. And the combination of things that are like, oh, what? Wait, what? Like, no, you're introducing this now, and you can like totally like go all in with like your heroes or your equipment or your troops and all that kind of stuff would be much more interesting to me. At least that's the way I feel it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So that was our last pre-planned question. We're gonna transfer to audience questions. So feel free to answer these any way you want. These all come from the audience. And the first one is asking about will we ever see the return of Supercell merch? And this is referencing the Supercell shop that closed down maybe I think 5 or 6 years ago, where we were able to buy actual merch online.
Yeah, so there are there are huge plans for merch, both like kind of in terms of working on our own stuff versus like working with collaborations. So that's going to be interesting, and I'm very excited about that. I also like know that we have a new member that is in charge of like merch, that is also going to be, for example, given on Superfest, and then like on further events and all that kind of stuff. So we're working on a new strategy for that. And I will be in, what is it? Less than a month. I will be in Helsinki, and for a very long time, actually. I will spend like a whole month there now, before Superfest and after Superfest. And I will be showing some sneaky peeks like of the stuff that's coming in terms of merch vision, and I'm sure creators will also very heavily spotlight as to like which game, and every game will have its own kind of like vibe and kind of like a branding that's going to be very interesting. So I'm super excited about that, because Yeah, I also feel that also like the our own merch has been kind of like black shirts with white logo, and I think we can do much more fun stuff than that.
Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and ask another one from the audience. This one comes from Gabby, and this one references the Supercell Make program that was available a few years ago before it was discontinued for Clash of Clans, and we're curious if it will ever make a return for Clash of Clans.
Yeah, me, Marco, and Ferry are like extremely passionate about this. We want to give it a shot. We want to bring it back. So we'll try our best to bring it at the right time and do it the right way. We also want to kind of have a low barrier of entry, so anybody can submit, and we would make it happen. So we just need to do some prep work for this to happen. So we are currently exploring some ideas about this, and hopefully we can give you some updates on that pretty soon. So we can have something that like the whole community could get into and cheer for. We can potentially also integrate a community event into it. We'll see, but it is something that we do know that we need to bring back and kind of have more direct input from the community in terms of like what things get made into the game.
Awesome. So our next question is from Hellfire, and they've asked what kind of plans you have to try and top the Mashup Madness event from last year.
um
It was pretty good, to be fair.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think there's plenty of options. And also like if people loved Mashup Madness so much, I think there is a clear indicator as to like what we can double up on. So, I'm hoping that the October this year is going to be exciting for people. Uh, and yeah, I'm also hoping that the events and everything around it could be kind of like one-upping what was done last year. So let's see. I cannot really say more than that because obviously we're building like content right now for it, and I'm building communication kind of like you know assets and all that kind of stuff on my end as well. So let's keep it under wraps for a little bit longer, and then we will have something super exciting that's gonna also like kind of propagate to the rest of the year, and I hope that's gonna be something that people can also get excited about, because I also feel that there is a high potential in like a way of like presenting a season and then carrying on the vibe of that season into the next one, instead of just like having a hard cutoff date where like one season ends and where the other one begins. Um, because, for example, like we had Haaland, and then like right after that, and a whole new team comes up, and a whole new like just like different kind of like world shows up, and it is hard to kind of have a direct connection between those things. So I think the bridge between those is something that is worth exploring, and see how things go, and having like a longer narrative instead of just something that kind of like hard stops right away.
Yeah, nice. I just want to quickly ask, how did the Haaland event even come about? Because I have to say, I was quite surprised by that collaboration.
I mean, Haaland just loves the game. I cannot believe
Yeah,
how many people
fair
think that
enough.
like I cannot believe how many people legit don't believe us when we tell that like he actually plays the game and loves the game. Like
To be
it
fair, if
is
any football player was to be obsessed with Clash of Clans, I would put Haaland up there.
I mean, it is just true. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, we had so much fun filming all of those videos, and he was down to do whatever, right? Like, even the silly idea of him interviewing and he repeatedly just saying Clash of Clans, which was like one of the most popular TikToks we've done with him, which was like just hilarious. And he was like down to do anything because he just loves the game, and he's been playing it like basically since he was a kid. Like it just blows my mind that the game has been around for so long that somebody can be a kid and then grow up to be like one of the most famous football players of all time and still like love the game. That's just something that you don't see every day, and that is something that motivates us the most. Having the game last for forever pretty much, and having people grow up with the game and still have this connection with them and with their kids and kind of like continuously play the game and have fun, and that is the biggest motivation you can have.
Yeah, nice.
All right, Gunter wanted to know if you guys have discussed adding building cosmetics or individual troop cosmetics.
Oh man, I really like this. And again, I don't know if there are real plans to actually add this anytime soon, but I personally like the white tiger skin on the Barbarian King because there is a special skin for the troops that he summons as well. So like that is super fun. And like I love those skins where like they're like just changing the troop skin as well when they're like getting summoned. Um, I really want this to be brought back. So on my personal level, please, let's do that again. I'm begging you, team, please, let's do this. Thank you. Also, like building skins, I'm not sure to be honest. So that is a different topic. Just from like a user experience kind of readability perspective, I think players have understood that like, okay, Town Hall 16 buildings look like this. And then what happens if somebody buys a skin for, I don't know, Eagle Artillery that looks like a builder's hut? I mean, I'm not saying, but like, like it would be just kind of funny to kind of have like a very drastic skins that would change the look of the building so much that like it would be hard to even read what it is. And maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe it's just like a slight color change, or like the silhouette still stays the same, but there's like a much more visual effects and that kind of stuff. And I can see that happening, but I don't know if that is on the table, to be honest, for the team. One thing that I learned from Clash Mini is that people have different opinions in terms of how wild skins can go. So, for example, OJ played our game, played Clash Mini, and his criticism was that some of the skins don't even make any sense because they changed the look of the unit originally so drastically that you can't even tell what unit it is. So there is obviously a spectrum between like how much do we want to change the initial design versus readability and quick like at glance information that you can get from it. So it is something that needs to be extremely seriously considered in order to change it up a bit.
All right, the next question comes from Reese, and it's asking about what's been the reception of the clan notices from the most recent update.
I think it's been pretty positive. I mean, Marco has been observing that feedback for some time now, and he delivered a lot of feedback to the team in terms of like uh, just what can be improved and what can be done better overall. Like looking forward to it, and I think so far it does like its job pretty well. But there are a few things that needs a little bit more polishing. I can try and find um, clan notice board. So yeah, there's some clan settings ideas that have been mentioned. Uh, you know, like clans being able to invite more members at once and all that kind of stuff. But overall, uh, you know, positive for appearing on top, but not as good experience for notices that appear at the bottom. Clan wars, having a little bit of an issue with those. Um, you know, leaving right after that kind of stuff. Limited language options. So there's a few things that we need to address for sure. And then like obviously the suggestions on like the wait list, chat for clan notice boards, allowing players to still find new members, uh, include CWL rank league in the settings and that kind of stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff that we're discussing, and Marco has been incredible and amazing at, uh, following up the feedback with the team and making sure that like this keeps iterating on and we keep adding little features and improvements to the already pretty decent system.
Makes sense, yeah. Hellfire asks, also I noticed that the current highest tier of equipment is epic, not legendary. So does that mean legendary hero equipments might be a possibility in the future?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know like what the hero equipment plan is. I do know that the feedback on the balancing of equipment was a mixed bag because we also didn't provide a lot of insight as to why this was balanced, and that was entirely my fault because I was the one that posted the Reddit post originally. And I tried to make a table of balance changes of equipment, and then it just fell apart. Like it was like a house of cards, right? Like you're like building it very carefully, and then you put the final piece of card, you press
Oh
post
yeah, I
button, and
remember.
just everything falls apart. And that was so bad. And in that
Yeah.
original table, we actually included the reasons of like balancing that stuff. But unfortunately, I had to resort to like just copy pasting Clash Ninjas um, images, which was not ideal. So I'm sorry. So yeah, I hopefully we can do a better job at that. But we're working on some custom graphics, hopefully, so we can have something more visual. But yeah, in terms of like legendary equipment, I don't know. I haven't seen any of them yet, so I don't
All
know.
right. The next question, a few people were asking about just decorations in general. Since Mashup Madness, we've gotten more decorations than every other year in Clash combined. Our villages are starting to kind of fill up with all these decorations, especially if we're buying every single one from every event. And so we're curious the future of decorations because now we're just starting to get the large ones. Do you plan on bringing back old decorations, old obstacles, all that type of stuff?
Well, that's another problem, right? Like with decorations. I think like adding another decoration to a gold pass and people are like, "Man, I don't have enough space for existing stuff. What do you mean? Like where am I supposed to put this stuff?" It's like bringing back home another pillow and your home is like full of pillows. You're like your significant other is like, "Are you serious? We don't have
That's
enough
a good
space to even
analogy.
sit on a couch, but like you're bringing another pillow here. Like where are we supposed to put this one on the roof, on the ceiling? What do you mean? So and I'm just saying this from my personal experience. So it's just like I understand the pain of people. People are like, bro, like seriously, like give me more space to put this stuff in. Maybe I'm gonna appreciate it more. So I would just direct your attention to the Inside Builders Cut number 2 coming out in hopefully one day from now. And we are going to hopefully ask for feedback. Well, I can ask you for feedback here as well. I mean, I don't need to ask you, like, tell you to wait to be asked for feedback on the video. But please tell us, like, how do you guys feel about, like, where the decorations should live and how they should live and what they should do moving forward and how do you want to show them off? Like, I understand people, like, even I, and I'm, like, not super hardcore player. I'm, like, surrounded by decorations. Literally, I can, like, imagine this being a real village. Like, an attacker shows up to your village and it's like there is like a wall of decorations. How are you supposed to even go around them?
Yeah.
Like your army is like, bro, like there's like a line of decos that we need to go past, and then we need to go through these walls. Are you kidding me? Like there's no way. Like this is not attackable village. So yeah, I understand. Like the villages are getting crowded, things are getting out of control. Like we love decos as much as anybody else, but at the same time, sometimes you just drop them into a storage because they're not worthy enough to sit on your like on the village visually, right? So it is a problem. And please use that flair that's like suggestions and ideas, and even a drawing on a piece of paper, like as to like how decorations could live and where they could live and what they could do and how they can be shown off in a better way, can work. Like we're all ears on that. And in Inside Builders Hut, sorry, Builders Hall, what? Builders Hut, we are definitely also like asking for player feedback as to like what this could look like, because we want to solve it. We genuinely want to solve it, like because we understand that this is not the prettiest thing in the world.
Nice. Well, our next question is from Crispy, and he asks if hard mode will ever come to Legends or War or CWL in any of those areas.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a again, that's like something that's like more like a competitive kind of question, and I would reserve my right to direct you to the esports team and the team that's like a hardcore level balancing kind of team that likes to talk about this stuff. Maybe we wait for another AMA or something like that where we can like ask those questions and actually answer those. But until then, as a person that never reached a Legends League, I cannot comment on this. So like, yeah.
Speaking of Legends League, have you been looking into the win trading that goes on there, and maybe coming up with any solutions for it?
Yeah, I mean, every time we get a report for this, we take it super seriously and we investigate. Especially you guys that are like in the super creator tab, we keep an eye out for that. We are also working with fair play team and making sure that like all those investigations are ongoing, and we also like do it case by case, but also like if we see a pattern, we try to like make sure that to investigate further. And so it is an ongoing investigation into a bunch of stuff in terms of like root of the system, and also like individual people that are using the system. But let's just say that like there is a bunch of channels where we're like daily talking. Like there's nothing that's like put on hold or whatever. Like there's constant conversation about this. So please, like if you have evidence and obvious examples of things, feel free to drop it to your favorite creator and on Discord, and hopefully things will be coming our way and we can take a look, especially at the very, very high end stuff. We understand that this is not ideal. And I know this is like very much kind of like the PR answer, but like I really I trust me, like I hear it as much as everybody else. So we just need to keep working on this together as a unit, and make sure that this is something that's like not as obvious and something that's like very, very hard to pull off, even and you cannot really make it impossible, but you can always try to fight it.
Yeah. Thank you. That kind of,
All
yeah,
right.
I think that's gonna do it for us. These kind of talks on Discord, this went really well. I really enjoyed this. This is something that you are planning on doing more regularly, as I understand.
Well, if you guys like this kind of vibe of a conversation of like how the game feels, uh I could totally be down to like do a more regular conversations like this.
So same time tomorrow?
Yeah, let's go. No, yeah, so it's like, again, this is all coming from the perspective of like I've done this for Clash Mini every month, like without a fail. So why we couldn't do this every month as well? Like why we couldn't evolve this into like just a regular Discord stage channel, and something that's like answering people's questions, and kind of like making sure that people are being heard, like even if you don't have an answer right on the spot, which very likely you won't, like you can still like have a little post-it note sat next to you and just write it down and follow it up, right? Like that is the most important thing, to like ask those questions to the right people, and then those questions gonna propagate to an actionable change in the game. And some things can take months, things can take days. It really depends on what the ask is, and I really like that. I'm a huge fan of just like listening to the community and like, all right, like this is exactly what the ask is. Let's see how fast we can make it, and does it make sense? And sometimes it doesn't make sense, sometimes it makes perfect sense. So it's like again the range of like timeline and sense, kind of like almost like a little grid, like X and Y axis kind of thing, so we can kind of map it out. So yeah, uh, I would love to continue doing this, and also I would love to hear from Ferry and Marco if they would love to jump on it as well from time to time, and so we can have like a little bit of an exchange of like who is going to be talking about the game, and kind of like do like a monthly vibe check kind of vibe of like going into Discord. And obviously, I know
Yeah.
that a bunch of Discord members are also Reddit members, so it's kind of like cross pollination of both of those communities.
Yeah, that's something that we'd love to see happen and can make make all the arrangements for you to make it an official thing that we do.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that next month I will be in Helsinki, and so we could even do one where both me and Ferry are there and kind of like are just chatting together about the game and how the game feels and where the game's going and all that kind of stuff. So I am sure Ferry would be down to like just sit down and chat. It's just like also we kind of have to prepare for Superfest, and there's like a lot of logistics that need to go into that. So that's just a balancing act of like, can we? We gotta need to just like make sure we squeeze that 1 hour slot somewhere and commit to it very early. So I'll try my best to get a time slot and try to like see if people are available. So yeah, let's hang moving forward much more often, guys.
Awesome.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you again so much for giving us well over an hour of your time. For anyone else who's still hanging out here, if you missed the beginning, you'll be able to download this pretty much anywhere that has podcasts, as well as YouTube. I'm going to have all the questions time-stamped to make it easier to sort through, and that's going to be up hopefully soon. I'm going to get it out as fast as I can. Thanks again, man.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you
been
guys so
brilliant.
much. That was amazing. And again, like
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a like a hard question or like questions not allowed. Like I am the most vocal, one of the most vocal like people that like wants to hear unfiltered opinions of everybody. So please keep at it. And I do listen to all of your episodes. So be
Hey,
brutally
there we
honest as
go.
much as you want, and go ahead. Like don't worry about it at all.
Yeah, no, like I didn't want to be hostile or mean or but I don't know. I just like I'm glad that we can have a pretty open and direct conversation about all this stuff, and I really appreciate you like letting us do that.
No, yeah, and again, like I would always encourage that from starting from our creators to Reddit to Discord. Like, if there is a obvious problem, be brutally honest. And I think the job of a community manager is to kind of like take a look at brutally honest feedback and try to understand where does feedback come from and why does it come from that place. Because even like when I worked in Clash Mini, Fan, our game lead, was actually a huge fan of extremely negative feedback, like almost curse words. And that is something that is fascinating to him because he doesn't like, he likes it to observe it as like a psychological exercise of like, why did this motivate this person to write such a mean message to such a degree where like there must be a real reason, right? Like there must be like, I understand that like internet can be toxic, but at the same time toxicity comes from a certain place. And if you try to like come to the root of it and try to understand it at a deeper level, you are going to cure toxicity and you are going to eventually like get people to be more constructive. So if you are addressing feedback point blank, all you can do is to like, the best thing you can do is to like motivate people to be more constructive. And that is the key to everything in the community that we do. So thank you so much. And again, don't worry about like, am I being too harsh or am I being too, no, like just speak your mind. That's the most important.
Awesome. All right, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been great to have you on.
Thank you
Thanks, man.
all.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, end the stage now, and everyone else, thank you for joining us and listening and tossing out all these great questions.
Yeah, see you all in the next
Yep.
episode.
Yep. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks all.
2 weeks.
Bye.